Revenge films.
Ever since I was little, my father was always drowning himself in alcohol and taking money from the house to go gambling. My mother was fed up with him and she left the house suddenly one day, leaving me behind too. I, Alan, was left with no choice but to live with my father alone. One day, that father of mine came home with a little girl out of nowhere. The girl's name was Sarah. Sarah was filthy. She smelled really bad too. "Why don't you go take a shower first?" I said, and she slowly made her way to the bathroom. But when Sarah came out of the shower, I was surprised at what I saw. Once she was cleaned up and had the dirt washed off of her, there was a beautiful little girl with a pretty face standing in her place. Then I heard a loud grumbling noise from Sarah's stomach. "You haven't eaten anything?"
Yeah.
I thought Sarah might be in her first years of elementary school, but it turns out that she was actually already 10 years old. I had just turned 13, so we were only 3 years apart, but must not have been fed properly up until now. She was short, but also extremely scrawny, and her gestures seemed immature, which made her look even younger than she actually was. If you don't mind having the fried rice that I made, I can give you some.
Yeah.
When I put the plate in front of her, Sarah scarfed it down like her life depended on it. "You don't need to eat so fast. There's plenty left, too. How long has it been since your last meal?"
I've been living in the park or along the riverbanks, and sometimes my mom would bring back bread crusts for us. That's what I would eat, and sometimes even out of the trash.
That's enough. So you were homeless.
"Yeah, that's right. I found this kid on the streets."
As I was talking to Sarah, my father jumped into our conversation, and I was finally able to hear what was going on. Turns out that Sarah's father lost at a gambling bet to my father, and instead of paying the $200, he left his daughter with my dad. To make matters worse, that was the first time they'd ever met, so we didn't know anything about who he is or where he came from. But to bring home a little girl in exchange for $200 didn't make any sense at all, nor did it seem right. I couldn't just sit by and let this happen, so I tried to contact the police. Then, Sarah ran over to me and grabbed my hand with the phone.
Please let me stay here. I'll do anything. Please don't kick me out. Please.
Sarah started crying as she begged me. "What are we going to do, Dad?"
"Why don't you decide? We can't just leave her here to do nothing and eat our food."
What is that supposed to mean? At that time, I was still in middle school and powerless, so for the time being, I decided to have Sarah help out around the house. Sarah was smart and a fast learner, so she was quick to pick up on easy tasks and house chores, and made my life a lot easier. My dad had never had a proper job, nor was he really working, and when I became high school age, completely stopped trying at all. In his place, I had to switch my high school to a night school, and during the day I would go to work as the main support of the household. That being said, I was still a high school student, so my salary was really low. My father would take my earnings and spend them on gambling or alcohol. We were barely getting by the skin of our teeth, and no matter how much Sarah was helping around the house, we were still in an incredibly difficult situation. Despite the circumstances, I somehow made it through high school and graduated. I turned 18, and Sarah was 15. I wanted to be able to give Sarah a better life, so I decided to go work away from home to earn money. But when I told her that,
You're going to leave me here?
"I'm going away to earn more money. I promise I'll come back from time to time." Sarah made a really conflicted face and she went silent. "My father will be here, so she won't be alone. I wonder what she's so worried about." I didn't think too much of it, but it was a lot worse than I imagined. As soon as my father left the house, Sarah said something shocking to me.
Hey, Alan.
It was clear something was wrong with Sarah. I figured it would have been something that was hard for her to talk about, so I stood still and waited for a while. What she said next sent chills down my spine.
Dad, he does things to me. He touches me in places that I don't like, so I don't want to be left alone with him. I'm scared.
What? I couldn't believe the words that just came out of Sarah's mouth. My mind went blank for a moment. I thought maybe I'd misheard her, but it was the horrifying truth. Whenever I wasn't home, my father was harassing Sarah, 15-year-old Sarah. I stormed straight over to where my father was, and when I found him, "What is this all about? Is it true that you've been touching Sarah?"
"Damn it, I guess she opened her mouth. What's the matter? Sarah and I are related. She isn't my daughter."
My blood boiled at my father, who seemed to show no guilt. Before I knew it, I punched him with all my strength. I ran back home to Sarah. "Sarah, listen very closely to what I'm about to say.
Yes? What is it?
This is what Dad is doing to you? Then I think we need to go to child services or anywhere that can keep you safe. They could probably help you, and maybe even put you in a child care center so that you don't have to stay here."
What? But why? I'm want to stay with you, Alan. I thought you were my brother.
You can't! I have to go and earn money. This is the only option that I could think of. If you go to the care center, you'll still be able to go to school. And I think this is the best chance for you. I know this is a little too late, but I was also still a kid, and I didn't know this was happening. And I don't know what else we can do. I'm sorry.
I understand. But when I become an adult, can I come find you, Alan?
Of course. That's why I need you to stay somewhere safe. You can't be in a terrible place like this anymore.
Okay.
I had no choice but to put my faith into the government. So I took Sarah with me and had her put into the care center. I left my dad at home and decided to leave the house. He tried to stop me.
If you don't stay here and work for me, what am I supposed to do? You better send me money at least.
You're no longer my father. I want nothing to do with you. You can live and die as you please. Doesn't matter to me anymore. Sarah isn't your toy, you scumbag! And I left the house behind forever. 2 years after I had left the house and started working, I got a phone call from my father that he wasn't feeling well. He wanted me to come home, but I ignored him. I don't know where he got the money from, but my father never stopped drinking or gambling and fell deeper into the hole, living a miserable life. Because of that, his health was a disaster. He lost a lot of weight, and he was discovered dead by one of his neighbors, with his organs and insides long dead before him. The news made its way to me, and as his son, I was asked if I wanted to hold a funeral, but I couldn't accept someone who would do something like that to Sarah as my father, so I just left it. I didn't feel anything towards my father, nor did I shed a tear. I could forget whatever he did to me, but what he did to Sarah, I could never forgive. Sarah would sometimes pop into my mind, but if anything, I wanted her to be able to forget the son of a scumbag like that and live happily on her own. Then one day, about 6 months later, front doorbell rang, and when I went to open the door, it was Sarah standing there.
Alan, I've been looking for you all this time.
She said through tears in her eyes, and she stared at me before jumping into my arms. What? What are you doing here?
Ever since I graduated high school, I've been looking for you all this time. And then I finally found someone who said they knew you, and they told me that this is where you live.
I hadn't seen Sarah in years, and she was still a young girl. But standing in front of me was a proud young woman who'd become even more beautiful than she was before. She was definitely not the same filthy little girl from when I first met her. She was put together and had become far prettier than any random B-list celebrity.
I wanted to see you all this time. And I also heard about Dad, too. Why didn't you come see me? Why didn't you try to find me? You never contacted me, not once.
I thought it was better that, as the son of the person who did something like that to you, that I wasn't anywhere near you. I wanted you to go and be happy without having to remember any of that.
But don't you know that I can't be happy without you, Alan? You can't assume my feelings like that.
I'm sorry.
I didn't want to be separated from you, but I went into the care center, believing that someday I would get to see you again. I thought that when I graduated high school, we would get to live together again, but you never came back for me, so I went looking for you. I love you, Alan, so please let me be by your side.
But I'm not good looking, nor did I go to college or have a good education. And look at you now. You would be wasted on me.
You were the best brother in the world, and I always thought that you were the best guy in the world. You accepted me back then, no matter what I look like. That's why there's no one else for me but you. You're the only person I've ever wanted. I want to become a real family with you.
Sarah hugged me even tighter. Are you sure? I'm not worthy of you.
You're the only one for me.
2 years later, the two of us got married. And we even had a baby together. I worked extremely hard for my family, and eventually we were able to buy a house. Sarah became popular in our neighborhood for her beauty. My colleagues at work were always teasing me.
How did a guy like you get a beautiful bride like her?
But if I told them the true story behind it all, I'm sure they wouldn't know what to say. Sarah had a tough life, full of unimaginable pain and horror. That's why I want to make sure that every single day I shower her with love and happiness, protect my family with everything that I've got.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.